Are you ready for some real talk? Acting isn't nearly as easy as everyone seems to think it is. So join me and my friends in my basement as we talk about the ups, the downs, the pretty, the ugly, and all the things in between on our journey to making it big. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, and it might even make you question your life choices. Right from the comfort of my not-so-glamorous basement, this is Live from My Basement with Lauren Washington. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are live from my basement with a very good friend of mine, Miss Allyn Morrison.
Hey, everybody.
I'm so glad to have you. You are officially my first guest.
I'm so excited!
And I am unbelievably giddy about it. And I can't think of a better first guest to have because you are also probably one of the hardest working people I know. So I think when I thought of this podcast and when I was thinking of the people that I thought would have really good insight, you were one of the first people to pop into my mind. So I'm so glad that I get to start things off with you.
I'm just so excited to be here too. I'm giddy too.
Yes. So I guess we'll start how I like to start all of my videos, which is what are you watching, what are you reading, and what are you listening to? Because we like to support the arts in this house.
Absolutely, we do. So let's see. I just finished last night. I finished a book called Negotiating as If Your Life Depends on It.
Oh my goodness, what is that about?
Actually, Never Split the Difference. That's the first part of it.
Oh no, I've heard of that book actually.
I got it for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and it is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get some insight into business acumen, especially like going forward into my career and learning my worth and stating like how much I need to be paid because I know what I'm worth.
Exactly.
This book is written by a former FBI international hostage negotiator.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about skills you can use in everyday life.
Honestly, every time you recommend a book, I'm like, my Amazon cart is getting expensive.
It's a thick book. Well, at least the hard copy that my brother got me is a very thick book.
Mm-hmm.
I was underlining everything in it.
Yes.
It was so great. I highly recommend it for anyone.
Okay. And is that
honestly.
the one that, because I think a friend of mine has mentioned it to me before, is that the one where they're like, you shouldn't like barter for, or what's the word
Haggle?
I'm looking for? Yes, you shouldn't like haggle for what you deserve, and compromise. You shouldn't compromise what you deserve.
You shouldn't compromise. Yes.
There we go. That's the word I was thinking of.
He uses the word, Chris Voss is the author's name,
Mm-hmm.
and Never Split the Difference. That is his term. Also, a wimp win was also something he mentioned, which I thought was really fascinating.
Okay.
So like getting a compromise, like medium value, somewhere in the middle. He's like, don't do that. Don't sell yourself short. Don't do that. Which is like, but that's what we've all been taught to do.
Yeah, get in where you fit in.
Compromise.
Yeah.
Take what you can get. And he's like, no, you can do so much more.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're obviously reading very good books.
I am.
What are you watching right now?
So for TV, I am watching ER.
Really?
The late 90s, early aughts version of Grey's Anatomy.
That's crazy.
I'm currently on season 7.
Oh my God. So you're like watching
Oh, I'm watching.
You weren't like...
I am.
I've been down that rabbit hole with Criminal Minds at least 3 times, so I get it.
It is so good. And I did it for several reasons, but like it's where a bunch of actors got their start. It's where George Clooney got his big break. I
didn't know that.
Yeah. Like he had been working for a couple of years. And it wasn't until this series that like he became a household name.
Okay.
He
was the original McDreamy, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the show won so many Emmy Awards, got nominated for so many things.
Okay.
And that's something I like to do is research things, watch things that have won or been nominated for a bunch of things.
That's really smart.
Yeah, and so ER, it's less, it's actually pretty intense for like late 90s, early aughts, which is kind of funny, like me watching that kind of thing. But I absolutely adore it, and it's so much fun, and it's such great acting too.
Okay, awesome. So we're watching the things that have won the Emmys and the Oscars and the Tonys that we want.
Yes.
And then what are you listening to? It can be a podcast, it can be music.
Ooh. What am I listening to?
Is there like an album that's on replay? For me, Sabrina Carpenter has been on my phone consistently.
She knows how to ride a bop.
She does.
That's for sure. I like to make playlists for myself.
Okay.
So just in the car, I was listening to my Get Stuff Done playlist.
I like it. And what does that consist of?
That consists of Sam Smith, Beyonce, Meghan Trainor.
Okay.
Need to Breathe, which is a very like niche folk hard rock kind of band. Katy Perry, a lot of pop. It's a lot of pop.
It's a lot of like get yourself going, get yourself revved up kind of music.
Yes.
Okay.
And then very random very random songs from the Beatles and Chicago and like old stuff that I used to listen to with my dad growing up.
I'm so glad because, like, honestly, I put musical theater songs on my playlist too.
Absolutely, as you should.
And I'm like, but they just get me so hyped. Like, it's all happening from Bring It On the musical. I run to it consistently.
I love that song.
And I'm like, as I'm like running, I start crying. It's a very emotional experience for me.
And you're in the gym and you're like, don't judge me. Okay?
Exactly. Because I'm like over there on the treadmill and like they're getting to like the crescendo of the song. And I'm like, I did it. I'm at 5 minutes. I'm almost done. And I start sobbing. Or like Hamilton, the song
Girl.
Stay Alive.
Stay alive.
Yeah, that's my cool down walk song. And
That's your cool down song?
Sometimes you want to feel something on the treadmill, you know?
No, because I don't walk. Well, no, that's not true. I do walk on treadmills sometimes.
Okay.
But I usually exercise outside.
Okay.
So.
Oh, yeah. So you go on a lot of like morning walks and communes with nature and stuff like that. And how's that been for your mental health?
Just the best. I started doing it during COVID when I just had to get out of my apartment. Being outside, being in nature, seeing the sky and greenery, as I call it. It reminded me of how small I am but how glorious the world is too.
Oh, I love that.
And it's humbling, but also so refreshing. Like the world was closed down. Everything was crazy.
Yeah.
But there were still birds singing outside. And
the birds didn't care about COVID.
The birds were doing fine. And the sky was blue. And it is a very grounding thing for me to be outside, take a deep breath and think, the world is still turning for better, for worse. And that's okay. And we're going to be okay.
And so you've kept that up since COVID it's like a everyday thing.
It's an almost everyday thing. Yeah. 30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Or sometimes
that's really
more.
Good.
Yeah.
So you recently moved to Atlanta.
I did.
Very
last year.
Quickly. It was like, you were like, I'm moving. And you came out to visit and then you had moved. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started acting in Texas. I'm in my 6th year right now. Just had my little anniversary. So I was in Texas for 5 years. Not a ton you can do for your career in Texas, and I made the most of it. I actually considered moving to Atlanta 6 years ago when I was first starting out.
Yeah.
Then realized I don't have a resume or a demo reel, and I don't have headshots, and I don't have anything that I need.
At least you knew what you needed. Some people move out here and they're like, okay, so can I be famous now? Or to LA and they're like, okay, so you just walk around and somebody finds you hot and then you're in a movie, right?
Wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't it be great?
But no.
The times of being stopped in JCPenney and asked if you want to be a model are over. And that's really unfortunate.
Also, who goes to JCPenney to look for models?
I don't know. I'm just I feel like I've heard at least 1 or 2 models on TikTok be like, yeah,
what?
I was just walking around being 7'5" and somebody was like, do you want to be a model? And I was like, sure.
One of my favorite stories is Anya Taylor-Joy was discovered when she was walking down a street, walking her dog, and someone rolled down the window of his car and said, if you stop now, you won't regret it.
That sounds like she was about to get murdered.
It does sound like it, but it was the head of a modeling agency, and that's how she got signed.
And
that does not happen to the everyday person. I love that for her.
Ryan Reynolds was like, I walked into every agency's office and was like, if I book a show within the first 5 auditions you send me, then you have to work with me. But if I don't, then you never have to hear from me again.
Wow.
And then he booked the first
Hercules?
no, it was
Oh wait, Ryan Reynolds. Sorry,
Ryan
that's Ryan
Reynolds.
Gosling.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
but then he booked a series, and then he was on his way.
Wow.
But like he was like, yeah, he just walked in.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you can't even walk into agencies anymore.
No.
They will turn you away.
They will.
And not only that, but they will turn you away and they will hate you for it.
Yeah.
So it's very different now.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like I was listening to an audiobook, and I think it was the business of show business. And he was like, if you want people to know your face, you have to send in your headshot to them, mail in Christmas cards.
Yep,
and I was like,
that's what people used to do.
Literally every casting director and agent I have ever met is like, please stop sending us mail.
I did that.
It's going to get thrown away.
Actually, I did that before COVID happened. I got my first agent 6 months before COVID hit, which really sucked. But I was sending out postcards to people in California from Austin, Texas, being like, you should cast me in something.
You know,
sweet
here's my
little
face.
Allyn. I spent so much money on those postcards.
Oh no.
Yes. I've kept a few of them for posterity so I can look at them and be like, you've come so far and you're doing great, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was funny.
You moved out here.
Anyway, yes. Yeah. I moved out here.
We go on tangents and that's fine.
We do. It's fine. That's what life is. A bunch of tangents, right?
Exactly. Side quests, really.
Yes. So I had moved so I started out in Fort Worth, Texas, which is this town that's west of Dallas. It's a city, but it's not huge. That's where I was living at the time when I thought about moving to Atlanta 6 years ago. But I was like, I know nothing. Like, let's stay in Texas where it's cheaper.
Yes.
And people are nice.
Yes.
And my family was close by. So I stayed in Texas. I moved to Austin to work on a Max TV show called Love and Death.
Yes.
With Elizabeth Olsen, which we will talk about later more in depth. The show ended and I wasn't booking. And I think I did 85 auditions without booking a single thing.
Wow. That 10,000 no's, you were really working on those.
I booked a play. I booked 2 Shakespeare plays, and that really helped. But I wasn't booking, and I wasn't getting the auditions that I wanted because my dream has always been film and TV. And so I started praying about it, and I was like, I just feel like Texas isn't where it's going to be. So I started thinking about bigger markets like Chicago, New York. I did think about LA at the time, and Atlanta. I ended up choosing Atlanta because it was cheaper, still in the South, not super far away from home. Like a bigger market, but not huge. So my goal had always been to be like a bigger fish in a smaller pond.
Yeah.
And so I thought Atlanta could be like a next step, but it's not like the hugest step. And it felt much more manageable. And plus, it's green in the city. I was born and raised in Arizona, where there was barely any greenery. And like I said, nature, like it feeds my soul.
I lived in Vegas for 5 years, and I was like, oh, there's so much dust, and when it rains, it smells like dirt, and I hate it here.
It just seeps into your lungs and into your bones.
You get the cough.
This is not living my best life.
Yeah. I was not meant to be here where I sweat and it disappears.
Yeah.
Although not having mosquitoes, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Like moving back here and the mosquito is basically the state bird. I'm like, maybe I should move back.
It's unfortunately very, very true. So I made the decision to move and moved in late October of 2023. And now it's September of 2024.
And you had a big like booking role at the beginning of this year where it was like sort of back to back for you.
So I moved and booked in the next 5 months. I booked 5 projects by myself. 2 YouTube, basically soap opera like things, a vertical short form, I think is what they're called. I booked a music video, a guest star on a TV show, and I'm missing. Oh, right. And I booked a supporting character in a feature film which was going to get me my SAG eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And
What happened with that?
well, Lauren, wouldn't I love to know? Because I received an email, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks later, saying that the project had been put on hold indefinitely.
Oh,
Yeah. That was the hardest blow I've ever had after the 85 odd auditions that I didn't book. But I was so ecstatic when I got this role. It was a nurse. It was a supporting role, and it was gonna.
Yeah, but it was your SAG.
It was my SAG eligibility. Dang it! And I was
your SAG role.
I had been calling everyone and telling them I'm gonna be eligible, which has been my goal for the past, I don't even know how many years. And then it was put on hold, and that just really, really disappointed me. And it's been months, and I've heard nothing about it. So all that said, I did book 5 things by myself in the very beginning, which was really confidence boosting.
Yeah. And it led to you getting your LA agent.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also a funny story. I wasn't looking for one at the time, but a really good friend of mine suggested that I check out this agent in LA.
Miss Shazia, she is a fantastic person.
Shazia.
And I hope to have her on our podcast
She
as well.
She's my mentor, basically. Like she's so amazing.
Oh, she's 10. If you could get somebody like Shazia, like everyone should have a Shazia in their life. She helps me with my headshots. I'll just send her pictures and just be like, "Is this okay?"
This is free publicity for our mutual friend Shazia Pascal. Hire her. Excuse me. Anyway, so Shazia put me on the path to this agent, and I submitted in the fall of 2023 last year. This agent is with Johnson Talent, and they represent people in both California and Texas. At that time, I was already represented in Texas with the agent that I had, for 5 years.
Yeah. And were you represented here at that time as well?
By that point, I think I was represented here.
Okay, so we've got 3 agents.
So
we're killing it.
Well, I submitted to this LA agent, and she very nicely emailed me back and said, well, you're already represented in Texas, and we can't represent you since you're already represented there. But also, if we were going to work with someone who lives out of state, you would need a more substantial resume. I was like, great, cool, thank you. 5 months go by, and I book those 5 things by myself, not with any agent, just me working really hard.
Just being you and perfect.
Just being me, and I'm doing my best, working hard. And my Texas agent closed her agency in January.
So you went from 2 to
1.
To 1 very quickly.
Very quickly. And I did not know that my Texas agent was going to do that.
It sounds like she didn't know she was going to do it until she did it.
She had been planning it for a couple months. She just didn't share.
That's crazy.
She's a single mom and wanted to spend more time with her family, which
I get it.
I totally get it. It's
That's
fine.
Fair.
But I suddenly found myself without a Texas agent, and I was at a panel here in Atlanta with 2 actors who were in the TV show Fight Night that just premiered on Paramount.
Oh, the amount of times I've auditioned for that show. I'm like, at some point you gotta put me on. Like,
I love that you got auditions for it and didn't book it, but you still got auditions for it. That's huge.
That's a good mindset. I will keep that mindset.
Yeah, every audition is a win.
Every audition is essentially you got to do that role for that time.
Precisely.
Yes.
So I was at this panel for these 2 supporting characters, like these actors talking about their careers. And it really motivated me to reach back out to this LA agent because things had changed. So I sent her an email saying, I don't know if you remember me, but I reached out to you in the fall. Circumstances have changed. I've booked these things by myself, and I'm no longer represented in Texas. And she said that she wanted to have a Zoom interview with me. And so we talked. And
how did that whole process go? For those of us who have never had an agent interview.
Yeah. So what did we talk about? So we set up a time, and we talked about, what did we talk about? First I asked her, like, what about me was interesting to you, because I am living in a different market right now, and I am,
Mhm.
you know, there's a lot of white millennial women in LA.
So what about
me? What interests you in me? And
Mhm.
so she told me that I was a really hard worker, that I have the drive. Not everyone has that.
Mhm.
Um, what else? We talked about my boundaries in film and TV, because those are very important to me, and I needed to make sure that she would be on board with that, and she was.
And your boundaries meaning like I don't do profanity, I don't do nudity, like
Correct.
those kind of boundaries. Okay.
Yeah, and
And you have to be confident when telling your agent that, because your agents don't know. They can't read your mind.
oh yeah, they don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
So I was very upfront, like, yeah, no nudity, no sex scenes, no graphic profanity, and it was just like, if you want to work with me, this
Yeah.
is what we're gonna have to do.
Mhm.
And
This is my brand.
this is my brand. This
Yeah.
is who I am. And she was totally on board with that, which was so great.
Mhm.
What else did we talk? Oh, we talked about my ability to work as a local hire, because I do live in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And I told her that with my side jobs, I had flexibility in my schedule. I also had some money saved up, so I could afford, you know, getting on a plane somewhat last minute to fly to LA to film something.
Mhm.
We talked about a bunch of stuff, and then at the very end, she offered me a spot on her roster.
I love that.
Yeah.
And are you allowed to say who your LA agent is?
I don't say why not. It's Johnson Talent. It's a Ophelia with Johnson Talent.
And then who are
Agency.
you repped by here in Atlanta?
Well, I'm actually not repped by them anymore, because I dropped them.
Because somebody is planning on a big move.
I am planning on moving to Los Angeles.
You
later
can't
next
stay in
month.
one place very long. I get
Apparently
a friend,
not.
and you're like, you know what? It was cool living near you for a year.
It was really great living close to you for a year.
Mhm.
But
who
yes.
am I gonna read for? Like, who am I gonna call last minute to be like, hey, can I read for you? No.
Well,
I want to practice.
I can read for you over Zoom.
Yes,
but that's not the same.
Mhm.
You need to go to Actor Studios.
Yes, I do. I do need to check them out. It's
Mhm.
not that I have a problem finding readers or people to read for. I love reading for you. You have a certain level of professionalism that some people don't have. Like, I walk in and you're memorized. You have a set of lines for me and you, so you're not like, I'm not like fumbling with a bunch of pieces of paper trying to figure it out. Like, you make being a reader easier. And it's so fun reading for you. Plus, you have an audition like all the time, and so I get to read scripts more often. So even when I'm not working, I feel like I'm working.
Oh, cool. Yay!
One of these days when you like book big stuff, I hope that at some point my voice was in it. So I can just be like, oh my God, I recognize it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like when you sent me the video and you were like, it was Reasonable Doubt, and you were like, I read for that scene with you. And it's like a little moment where you're like, I didn't get it, but it's exciting to see what you helped read for on TV.
That was really strange, seeing that clip of something that you auditioned for months ago.
Right?
And then seeing actually one of my acting studio peers, she got the job.
I mean, I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
Like, I wish nothing but the best for everybody in this market. Absolutely. It still hurts, obviously.
It was really weird to watch that and be like, that's what Lauren auditioned for.
Right? That should be me. No.
But I'm trying to get into the mindset of the producers, being like, why did they choose her? Equally talented, just different.
And I believe that she fit, and honestly, I wasn't there for like hair and makeup. I don't know what they did for it, but I have been told that like my hair and the way that it's done speaks to a different role depending on like how my hair is. So
because
like
you wear your hair in a fro.
Yeah, because I wear my hair like naturally in a fro, and I noticed in that scene it was like wig, very straight, which is a look that is very popular in Atlanta. So it's like you have to know your audience, and it also could have just been like the way she said a line. They actually cut it down quite a bit
Mm.
from what we did. I remember watching it and I was like, I feel like the whole script was probably like 5 or 6 lines and they cut it down to like 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes sense. I still would have liked the $1,000 for the day.
It would have been great.
It would have been great. But it's actually been really weird because a lot of the things that I've been auditioning for, like Fight Night and P Valley and Reasonable Doubt, have all been coming out.
Yeah, they have
like
been.
The seasons have been coming out, and so I've been watching them, and basically I come across the scene that I auditioned for, and you're like, huh, I wonder, that is, and it's
the
like
strangest feeling. The strangest feeling.
Because you're like, I want to be happy for these people, obviously, because they did it. They got the job. And then you're like, oh, it's like getting rejected all over again.
Yeah. I auditioned for 1923 a couple of years ago for a co-star part, and I was watching the show, I guess maybe about a year ago. And I came to the part that I had auditioned for. And they cast this woman who was in like her late 30s, early 40s, kind of frumpy looking. And I was in my mid-20s at the time. And it was just interesting to be like, that was what they went for.
Yeah.
Which is cool, I guess.
But then why did you ask me?
Why did you ask me? Because we were like in such different stages of life. But that's who they wanted. So that's okay. It was weird to be like, that could have been me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And that's okay.
And sometimes, especially just starting out, and I'm sure that like lots of actors who are, you know, A-list celebrities have to go through it. Like I know that there were
stories of that.
Yeah, I know there was like a ton of people. Emma Stone talks about how she made her hair red because she kept being in the room with like other big name brunettes, and so she wanted something to stand out.
How she did it. Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
Or like Jennifer Lawrence used to talk about how she was in the same room as like Kristen Stewart and stuff like that. And I was like, that's very interesting.
2 very different people.
And then there was the whole talk about the short list for like Twilight and how it's just like the same girl in different fonts.
It is, yes. Yeah.
And you're like, eventually, especially in this market in Atlanta, it being such a small acting market, you do end up in the same room as a lot of people.
Yeah.
You just don't see them as often because it's self-tapes.
Right.
But if all of us were to go to a callback, I guarantee you I would walk in the room and I would know most of those people.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small market.
It's weird, but cool. The other day I was in class and I go to a primarily African-American studio, which is great. I love it. Every week we talk about congrats, about auditions we do and stuff and things we've booked. And I mentioned something I had auditioned for, and this wonderful black gal said that she had auditioned for the exact same thing. And it was like, they're really looking at all the options. That's great.
They said open ethnicities, they stuck with it.
Late 20s, early 30s.
It's very funny because we go to 2 different studios. So I go to Nick's professional acting studio, and you go to Actor Studios with Angela Davis. And I hear great things about both. Angela Davis actually started at Nick's.
She did, yes.
Which is so crazy. I was talking to a friend about that, and I was like, everything, like the acting, it really is very small here, where you're like, everybody's gone to every studio. The teachers have probably started at the same studios, or at least within the same studios. And so what's been your experience at Actor? Like, would you recommend it? Would you be like, yeah,
absolutely, I'd recommend it. So my first few months, I started in the spring, in like February. Angela was not there because she was actually working as the acting coach on Fight Night. Which got me super psyched that like this working actor is actually,
like she's working.
And there are a few more coaches, Raquel and Lisa. They were leading the classes. But just really hands-on practical things, like how do you stand out in a co-star audition when you have one line, but also be yourself and not overpower the other people in the scene. So like we did a whole month on that. Right now we're talking about improv and commercials and how important those skills are to work with one another. And it's been a very it's been a very pushing experience.
Improv?
Oh no, I love improv.
Okay.
That actually comes pretty easy to me. But once Angela came back, she knows that you can do better, and she will tell you so.
Oh.
Sometimes
that's what you need.
That's
though.
the big one that you need.
Yeah.
I would not have been able to respond to that well 6 years ago when I first started out.
And that's so big.
Yeah,
it's so big to know that, especially because like if you're in a position where you're just starting out, and then you think to yourself, oh, I can handle feedback, like I should be famous by now, and then you get hit with like, I got hit with some absolutely brutal feedback when I first started out. I got told like I was a professional. I got told that like, and it was just because I didn't. It was in college, and so my priorities were paying tuition and surviving. And like, if I could fit a play or something in there, I was happy. And it wasn't necessarily that I got called unprofessional, but she was just sort of like, if you're not going to take this seriously, then why are you here? And I was like, because I want to take it seriously, but I also don't want to starve.
You you think you're so grown up in college, and then you get out of college and you're like, we were babies.
Such babies.
Like,
I was really teeny tiny.
We needed kid gloves.
Yes.
And at least I know I did for a certain amount of time. And a lot of people needed it. And then you have experiences like yours when you're like, well, that's either going to help you know that you want to stay in the industry or not.
Yeah. The first time I came here, I auditioned for Nick's, and I came with a printed out headshot from Walgreens, and I know.
I'm smiling so hard right now.
And the like resume with like the resume still had like, it was like done in like a table format. So it was like it was like roll. I would show it to you if I had the time, but it was done in like a table format. It was wrong. Basically, I had just like COVID had just ended, and I was getting back out there after college, and they didn't. For some reason, I went to school for acting, and they did not walk me through forming a resume.
One of the things I love about actor studios is that as much as we spend time on the actual acting part, we also talk a lot about the business part. And so a couple of months ago, we actually spent an entire night on just resumes, actors access.
Oh, that's amazing.
How to reach out to agents and managers, like we talked about. It was so helpful. And acting is a business. And
it's show business.
It's show business.
Like Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Like you gotta it's all about commas. It's all about
it is.
And the book that you let me borrow, Self-Management for Actors, 10 out of 10. I mean, it's thick. It took me months.
Yeah.
I read the other two books you let me borrow in like probably a month. That one, the reason I had those books for like 3 months is because of that one.
Yeah, there's just so much that you don't know starting out. And that book in particular, I would highly recommend for actors of every age.
What do you think is the most important thing that you've learned, like business-wise, since like getting into it?
The most important thing business-wise?
Not even the most important thing. What's something that pops into your head that you're like, oh my God, I feel like everybody should know this by now?
Your headshots.
Yeah.
Your headshots. I have taken so many headshots over the past 6 years.
Spent so much money.
Spent so much money. If I could give anyone advice, it would be invest in some coaching before you get your headshots. Because your headshots are supposed to be the essence of who you are, not who you want yourself to be necessarily.
And gone are the days that we take pictures with stethoscopes around our necks.
No more.
To be
doctors.
Or we dress in a police outfit to be cops.
Gone are I did that my very first headshot session. I did an unlimited look session, which was so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I did all of these outfits for all these characters I could play.
And you don't use a single one of them.
And I didn't book a single role with any of those character shots.
Mhm.
And then like a couple, like 2 headshot sessions after that, I got very glamorous looking headshots, which made
Mhm.
me feel like $1,000,000.
But they're unrealistic.
But my type is not the glamour Margot Robbie look. Like, that's
Mhm.
not who I am. And so my agent and I talked about it, and she's like, these aren't actually all that helpful because this is not you walking into the room
Yeah.
or a self
What are they gonna
tape.
see when they walk in the room?
I'm not spending 30 minutes on my hair. Just like me, myself, and I. Like, we don't do that. The royal we. I don't do
Mhm.
that. Like, I am not the glamorous person. And so those headshots were, it was a hard lesson learned. So anyway, I would say, like, really focus on getting to know your type and your
Mhm.
personality. Get to know yourself as a person first before
Mhm.
you get your headshots. Know who you are, because you will spend, like, good quality headshots will be at least a couple $100,
Oh yeah.
and they're worth every penny. But
Mhm.
make sure you invest in your type as an actor, yourself as an actor, so that you can go and, like, have fun, but also that you can work smarter, not harder, when you get your headshots.
Because if you take those fancy headshots in 2 years when you don't look like that,
Mm-mm.
in a year when you don't look like that, you're
Mhm.
gonna have to get new ones, and
Yeah.
that's
Which is exactly what I had to do.
yeah, that's $300 every year that you don't need to
Mhm.
be spending.
Yeah.
That none of us need to be spending,
Yeah.
especially with the industry as it is right now.
Yeah.
So to offset that cost, what do you do to like make your side income, make your money?
Girl, I've had so many jobs. I've had so many jobs. My first side job, I worked as a food delivery driver
Mhm.
for Favor, which is like the Texas version of Uber Eats.
Mhm.
I did that for a couple of years. I worked as a barista for 3 years.
Mhm.
I became an assistant manager, and then started working as a host, and then as a waiter for 2 years. I walked dogs twice.
I walk dogs
Twice.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it was so not worth it.
It's
what I was
so
doing.
much work.
It was so much work.
You get your steps in, but like other than
I do
that,
this anyway. Okay.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Other people's dogs and picking up other people's dogs' poop. I don't even like picking up my dog's poop, and I'm doing it for other people.
Not your dream. Not
Yeah.
your dream job. I was a nanny. I was a private English tutor.
Oh wow.
I now work as a substitute teacher, which I really, really enjoy. That's been a really great side job for me.
Mhm.
Just all kinds of stuff. I worked at a summer camp for a couple of summers. I was a lifeguard and a cook. I was a nurse's assistant. I worked in the main office in HR, which is where I realized that, like, this is why people get midlife crises. And then I worked as a horse wrangler one summer. Like, I've just had all different kinds of jobs.
And you've been doing volunteer work at which horse? I don't know if it's a horse farm. What is it called?
JD's Horse Ranch.
There we go, Horse Ranch.
This past summer, and still now, I've been volunteering there and getting free lessons in exchange.
And that's how you build a special skill without spending much money on it.
Precisely.
Because we need special skills, but not all of us can afford a $300 riding lesson every week.
Yeah. Like, I had taken horse lessons on and off for several years, but I have it on my resume, and I was like, I need to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
So I have been volunteering and taking lessons for free, and now I've been able to send my agent some videos of me and being like, when I say I can ride a horse, I can actually ride a horse.
And not like, I could get on a horse.
I could get on a horse and survive.
And I could probably not die on a horse.
Yes.
No, if you were to put me in a Western, I could do it.
Yes.
And that's the important part of special skills.
Oh, yeah.
Is like, you need to be able to walk in a room and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a workshop with Joy Purvis from Joy Purvis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she would like grab your resume, and then she'd be like, so you sing? Do it. Like middle, like no warm up. No, she was like, you sing? Do it. One guy had that he was like a beginner at ASL interpretation, and she was like, I need you to tell me what you like to do. And he started, and she was like, no, ASL, like sign language. I need you to do it. And he was still at the like spelling things out phase, and he was honest about that. And she was like, if I were to book you in a role that requires you to do ASL and all you could do was spell things out, it's not a good look.
No. If you got a role in Coda, like,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
And I hope that at this point he's progressed past beginner. But I had a bunch of voiceover stuff, so it's like I could do very mild accents. I could do a shitty Southern accent.
Oh, I love that so much.
I can do mild accent. If I listen to it enough, I can get it for like a character in a book. But don't put me in Downton Abbey, because I will not make it.
It's a funny story. A month after I signed with my LA agent, she called me on the phone and grilled me about my special skills. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was she asked me to talk about my kayaking experience in my Irish accent.
Crazy.
And I was like, I need a minute to process this
My
request.
brain doesn't work like that.
She's like, it's okay, you can take a minute. I was like, thank you. I had never said the word kayak in an Irish accent before, so I just I did it though, and she was impressed. So like we were good, we were fine, but it was like she did not mess around.
Yes, my agent also grilled me about my special skills. We had a call, and she was like, "Can you swim?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be honest, Barbara, no." And she was like, "Can you not drown?" And I was like, basically, like, give me some floaties and I can do anything.
Okay, your voice just went up, which really does not inspire confidence.
It shouldn't, because I can. I was like, I don't know how to say in any other words that I can't swim, and I am not capable of it, and that's okay. Don't put me in a movie where I gotta swim. I'll learn if I have to. Like, if Marvel calls me tomorrow and they're like, you have to be able to swim for this role.
Absolutely.
I'm at the YMCA tomorrow, baby. I'm at the YMCA today. I will stop. I will leave right now.
Yes, you will.
But, like, it's so important to, like, be honest about your special skills, but also constantly be growing them.
Yeah. It's what I really focused on this summer was horseback riding specifically, but also I went back to the batting cages and worked on my softball skills, because that's also something that I have. Well, I guess that. And swimming too. I swam some this summer to make sure that I was up on that. And I was emailing my agent, letting her know that I was doing this stuff so that she knew that I was on top of things and
just keeping her in the loop.
Yeah, just keeping her in the loop, which she really appreciated.
So how does she feel about you moving to LA now?
She's ecstatic.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I was in LA last week for several days.
And tell me about it.
Yes, I got to see her, and we sat and talked for an hour and a half. And it was just the loveliest conversation.
Not very many people get to talk to their agents in person anymore.
Right. Well, I reached out and I told her, hey, I'm coming and I'm looking at apartments and I would love to see you. And I, wasn't expecting that much, like 30 minutes or less or whatever. And we talked for like an hour and a half and just had a very easy flow of conversation. I told her my acting journey. I told her like my hopes and dreams for the future and things I'm looking for. And it was a great talk. And at the very end, she said, I think that you're really going to feel at home here.
And does that give you more confidence moving there?
Oh, heck yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Like knowing that she's in my corner. And at the very end, when she got up she had to go and meet someone, she said, all right, I got to go. I got to go get you work.
I love it. I love it. I love an agent that's working for you and lets you know. Because sometimes you're floating out there and you're just sort of like, are we good?
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that person that's like world. Emailing them like, hey, are we good? But also you want to be like, are we good? Like,
yeah, it's so important to have an agent who communicates. I've had some ups and downs with past agents and things I could have done better and things I didn't know that I didn't know. That happens to all of us.
Things that could have made their lives easier, things that could have made your life easier. Sometimes you stay longer than you should.
Yeah.
Sometimes you leave earlier than you should. And you never know the right thing.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that she's excited for me to come and that we're going to work really well together. I'm really excited about that.
So you plan on moving when?
Late October, so later next month.
And what gives you the confidence to just pick up? I mean, you've been here a year, and I feel like you told me a month ago that you were moving. And it was like, I've decided to move. It wasn't even like, hey, I in a little bit. It was like, I've decided and I'm moving now. So what gives you that confidence? What gives you that step?
So, gosh, it's been such a journey. The biggest thing right now for me is the knowledge that life is short. My family has experienced a lot of trauma in the past 8 years, and that has really influenced me in that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, we're not promised tomorrow. And now, having been acting for 6 years, and I've lived in 3 different cities now, acting Fort Worth, Austin, and now Atlanta, and it just not happening. And I've also learned, like, if it's not working, like, trying to force it to work is probably not going to work. That's what I tried to do in Austin when I stayed for another year and a half, and it just wasn't working. And being here, I've really learned that this market just is not casting my type. The quirky best friend, the young mom, they're just not casting that here. And when I moved here, I thought that I could be Tyler Perry's token white person.
I thought I could do it.
Pick me, Tyler.
Didn't we all? Not all.
Not you.
Yeah, I didn't think. We didn't all think we could be his token white person, but I definitely remember my mom going, "Just go to Tyler Perry Studios.
Right, just
He'll
go.
Cast you.
Just go up to the studio, knock on the door, and ask for a job, and it'll be fine." No.
Yeah, I actually know a guy who works as like in construction for Tyler Perry, and he's like, yeah, he just goes on vacation in August, so like production slows down, and I'm like, I love that for him, but also he definitely isn't just gonna be there to be like, hey, Mr. Perry, can I get a job?
Yeah,
but yes,
that's not
we
how
all.
that
I
works.
think not everyone, but a lot of people that move to Atlanta are like, yeah, I'm just gonna get cast in something with Tyler Perry, and then my career's gonna take off. And it's like that man's holding Atlanta on his back at this point.
He really is. Yeah, and I've also realized, being at Actors Studio, I'm watching people who book, and they're very serious, intense actors, which is great. That is not my go-to personality. I am light and bubbly and quirky and
this is
fun.
a romantic comedy.
This is a romantic comedy, and I am the best friend.
Yeah,
okay, I know my type to a T.
I'm telling my best friend, go on that date, get him, girl.
Tyler Perry's not casting that.
No, he's not.
He's not.
I think he's in his drama bag right now.
He is, yes, and I think he will be there for a while.
Yeah,
if
you're good at it, write it.
If you're good at it, write it, and that means a lot of people are getting cast and they're doing their thing, which is great. And I could do those things, but as I've auditioned over the past year, like, it also takes a lot out of me, and it doesn't come naturally to me to be that kind of intense. With the trauma I've been through in the past couple of years, I've learned how I do anger and grief, and I'm much more subtle. And when I get angry, I hold it in, and I'm quiet. Tyler Perry is not casting quiet actors.
And that's fine.
And that's fine. But I've been acting for 6 years now, and there've been some really good things, there've been some really hard things. I don't want to wait around and just hope that things will get better, because I've seen that happen with other people, and it's just devastated them. Life is too short to wait for good things to happen.
That's big. I like that.
Yeah, and a lot of things in life will happen to you, but that doesn't have to be your entire story.
And you feel like LA is the next best step?
It is the place to set myself up in the best way for success. Commercials, comedies, film, TV, and it's got all of the genres. Yeah. I think trying to be as smart as I can about my career, LA is the best foot forward.
And I'd say if I was going to give anybody advice on moving to LA, and you don't have to listen to me, but if I was going to give anybody advice on moving to LA, I'd tell them to do it the exact way that you did it. I mean, you got an agent first. You got some sort of footing before you moved out there.
Yes. I would have been more reticent about moving if I hadn't had an agent. I would have started planning moving, and I would have been reaching out saying I'm about to move to LA. But the fact that I have an agent and am blessed with someone who works really hard with me and for me, that is a huge confidence booster as well. So I'm not going out like happy-go-lucky, like everything's gonna work out.
if I just get on a plane, this is my Emily in Paris moment.
Mhm.
I will land, and I've never seen the show. I make fun of it because TikTok makes fun of it, which is sad.
Yeah.
I should watch it and then make fun of it. No. But I just have your like rom-com moment where you're like, I'm just gonna get off the plane and I'm gonna bump into the love of my life, and he's gonna work for the studio that I want to work for.
Wouldn't it be
And
great?
And we're gonna live happily ever after.
Mhm.
And that's great. But some of us have to be realistic.
Some of us have to be realistic.
And I think planning it out while also moving as quickly as you do, in terms of like you had the idea and you put it in motion, is like, it's very impressive.
Thank
Because
you.
not very many people have that like execution style where they're like, I thought about it, and now I'm gonna get on a plane and go look at apartments,
Mhm.
and now I'm gonna I'm gonna reach out to my agent and let them know that I'm moving. I mean, you let go of your Atlanta agent and you're like, I'm ready to go.
We're
Like,
going.
we're packing.
We're doing
ready
it.
to go.
Yeah.
So have you found a new accommodation?
No.
Or sometimes life works like that. I'll keep an eye out.
Last week did not go exactly as I had hoped and planned. I drove around a lot. LA is huge. And I had honestly been scared of moving for the past 6 years. But another reason why I decided to go was like, I'm never going to feel fully prepared.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I am the most prepared I've ever been.
Which is
where I am
awesome.
right now, which is awesome. I'm very grateful for that. So I drove, like in LA, there's so many neighborhoods and they're all so different. I drove through Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Hollywood, East Hollywood, Silver Lake, Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, Studio City, Toluca Lake. Like I went all around, which was very helpful because there are so many different places to live with, and they're all expensive. They're all expensive. They're expensive because they're close to the ocean. They're expensive because they're close to the studios, or they're cheap because the apartment was built in the 50s and looks like it will fall over if an earthquake happens.
It's a health hazard.
Because it is a health hazard. I literally looked at a place that was $1,500 for a studio and was like, this is a shoebox and I think I could die.
It's hard.
So I didn't, and I had set up a bunch of tours, but I drove around ahead of those tours to see what the neighborhood looked like because I need somewhere where I can walk.
Yeah.
And a lot of those places I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. XYZ. So I didn't find an apartment. I do know that I want to live in Toluca Lake, like in North Hollywood, like that area. So that in and of itself was super helpful. So in that way, the trip was a success. But I also got to meet with my agent and I met with 4 or 5 other friends as well, which was
awesome. And knowing that you
awesome.
already have friends in the city is amazing.
It really is.
I have a surprising number of friends in the city. I'm actually hoping to be there for New Year's so that I can see all of my friends.
Yeah.
Especially because like I don't usually get to do very much for New Year's. And it's also very calming when you're like, if I move, I at least know that there are some people that I can talk to.
Yes.
It's not the end of the world.
Hey y'all. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. And if you're an actor, I want to make sure that you have all the information that I wish I had when I was starting out. So, if you're looking for detailed first steps, you can click the link in the description and it'll take you to my How to Get Started checklist, a totally free PDF that'll give you 10 actionable steps to get you ahead in the game. And if you want more tips and tricks on how to be successful in all parts of this industry, you can sign up for my newsletter in the description, or you can go to my website at laurenelizabethwashington.com. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, and let's get on with the show.
Okay, so we were right in the middle of talking about LA,
Yes.
but I do, before we head out, want to talk about Love and Death because that is so big.
Yeah.
Working with Elizabeth Olsen is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So please tell me everything, all the details. I would love it.
Well, so much to tell, so little time. I'll be as quick as I can.
How'd you get it? You know,
Yeah.
What was the experience like? You worked on it for how many months? All of that.
Yeah. So a little backstory. I fell in love with Elizabeth Olsen during WandaVision, which we watched in 2021 during COVID. And I was like, who is she? Where has she come from? And where has she been all my life?
And can she be friends with
And
me?
can she be friends with me? So I proceeded to watch her entire filmography and, just look at her profile on the internet consistently to see if she was working on anything new. And I saw one day that she was going to be in this true crime drama that was based on a true crime that happened in Texas. And I was like, hold up. This was back in 2021 when I was living in Fort Worth at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have to be a part of this
Mm-hmm.
because they're probably going to film here, right?
And I'm here.
And I'm here. And sure enough, HBO Max, as it was called then, decided that they would come to Austin to film it. And so I was like, all right, I have to be a part of this because no big, like barely any huge cable TV shows come to Texas to film, especially at that time. So I told my agent, and I was like, I really want to audition for speaking roles for this.
Mm-hmm.
I made a new monologue for my demo reel. Like I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get anything. I was like, but I have to be on set because this is so huge. And I worked as a production assistant for a couple of years. And I saw like a crew call asking for PAs for the production. And I sent in my resume. Didn't hear anything.
Oh, so there was a crew call.
There was a crew call. And so I sent in my production assistant resume. Never heard anything back. And I was like, gosh darn it, come on. Please, God, please. And then I saw a casting call for extras, for featured extras, and it asked for people with choir experience. And I was classically trained in voice in college. I was in choir for 11 years.
Seriously, how do you have the time?
I was like, pick me. So I sent in a video of me singing and found out a few days after my birthday that I had gotten a featured background extra role on the show.
Exciting.
So exciting. I ended up working on it off and on for 7 months. I wasn't a featured extra every time I worked, but I got some FaceTime. I got some big FaceTime. Ended up moving to Austin so that I could work on the show, and got to work literally right next to Lizzie Olsen.
Yeah, you have like a newspaper clipping,
Mhm.
and it's her
And
and you right there.
in this choir. That was from our very first day of filming in middle of nowhere, Texas, at this church where we did not have enough air conditioning, and there were so many people. I woke up a few weeks after we had started filming, and I got all these texts saying, "You're in the first look photo. You're in the photo." And I was like, "What photo?" Sure enough, on all of these websites, there was a first look picture of Love and Death. And it included me standing right next to Elizabeth Olsen. And
Getting
it
your
just
face in a movie is huge. Or a TV show is
blew
huge.
my mind. Like,
Yeah.
this is an HBO Max thing. The biggest thing I had ever done. And someone who I just admire so much. I got to watch her act her butt off every day. It was an amazing opportunity to learn. Watching her just bring a take after take after take. And being right next to her. Like, seriously, there are times where I was thinking, I could reach out and poke her right now and touch her. I didn't. I didn't. Because I knew I would be barred from Hollywood for the rest of time. But I was so excited to be there. I actually have, like, a behind the scenes picture of me, like, grinning like an idiot right next to her. Because I was just so psyched to be there. And I got to learn. This was HBO Max. Like, all these huge cameras and this enormous cast and crew.
Mhm.
We had an amazing director in Leslie Linka Glatter, who ironically directed episodes of ER.
Ooh, okay. So she came up, and you really manifested that.
I
honestly.
apparently did. Yes, I love that. And I just got to watch all these moving parts, and I got to work as a stand-in a couple of days, which was super fun.
Mhm.
I got to drive a 1970s car
Ooh.
a couple times, which is super cool. I got to do like a whole bunch of stuff, and it was just the highlight of my life. I felt so alive on that set. I felt like even when I had to get there at 5 o'clock in the morning and drive 45
It's almost like you
minutes.
want to be.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're like,
I
I
was-
woke up at 1 a.m. so I could be there at 3 just in case.
Yes, absolutely. I was on the show for, I think I worked like 36 or 37 days over
Wow.
7 months. And it just every day, I was just so grateful to be there and that they wanted me there. And they
Mhm.
kept asking me back even when I wasn't a featured extra. I love watching it now and saying like, oh, hey, that's me. You can't see me, but that's me. Like,
And
I see myself there.
That's such a big example of like your professionalism and the genuine vibe that you bring to a set that people want to have you back,
Mhm.
especially like on a big set, because that's huge.
Yeah. I was really hoping that I would be upgraded to a speaking role. I was praying that it would happen.
Sometimes you need to know somebody.
And it did not happen. It happened for at least 2 people I knew on set, which I was so happy for them. I really wanted to get my SAG eligibility from this, and it didn't happen. But that's okay. I had the best time, learned so much, and it really validated for me, like, yes, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, this is what I was made to do, was to be in these ridiculous 70s costumes and sweat in this ridiculous choir Baptist costume
and work 12-hour days.
I think our first day, it might have been 17 hours.
Yeah.
It was a really long day. But I was like, yeah, bring it on.
This is all I want to do.
This is all I want. There was one shot where there's a close up on Lizzie, and she goes by Lizzie. It's not like I know her. Like, she goes by Lizzie
now.
Where this huge HBO Max camera comes straight into her face to get this really cool shot. And of course I'm standing right next to her, so I've never had a camera so close to my face before. It's literally right here going up over her head. So the camera guys were talking to her about how, because she's short.
Yeah.
I am taller than her. So I was like, Lord, please don't let this hit either of us. I mean, rather me than her, but please don't let this hit either of us. And it didn't. And it was just nice and smooth. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
And it's so crazy being on a professional set and getting to see all the moving parts. Was there anything that you think back and you're like, this was such a good thing for me to know? I would know had I stepped on this professional set and experienced this.
The assistant director really gets everything done. Like, wow. So like Leslie was our first director. But it was the assistant director who really actually like pulled me to the front sometimes and was like, I want you here. And she gave me some feedback that like some of the producers had seen some of the early scenes that had me and my fellow choir mates in them. And she's like, our producers really, really liked it. And she like was just, so the roles of the different directors, and then like there are multiple assistant directors, and they all have different jobs, and that was fascinating. It was the second assistant director who placed me in a lot of places, and then watching these production assistants like actually get promoted during the show, and they started to kind of direct people like extras in the background. It made me so happy for them. And we had COVID PAs.
Oh, nice. Oh, so they were like serious about it.
I have never felt more safe in my life than I was on this HBO Max TV show. That. I did not get COVID until after the show.
I've never washed my hands and been so in a bubble as when I was on set. Like when they finally let sets open back up for COVID. Oh, yeah. And then like everyone around me got sick, and I was like, I don't know.
We had to be tested every 3 days. We had to wear masks until like right before we started a scene. It was really funny. We had to hide our masks inside our choir books so that the camera wouldn't see them. I felt the level of professionalism, how serious they took it, and all the moving parts. Like I had worked as a PA for 3 years by then, and so I knew a lot. But like this was like this is the big leagues, and I was just so happy to be there and watch and learn and respectfully ask questions for people. And there were several people who were willing to share like their tell me about like what their job was and like how they got there.
Crew is so underrated. They will tell you everything you want to know. Anytime I've been there for like background or mostly featured background, I'll just be talking to some of the like crew while there's some off time or setup time, and they are just so nice and so respectful, and they're like, yeah, I started here, and then I knew some people this way, and if you're ever looking to PA, just call me. Like they're always so sweet, and truly, I mean, obviously the set couldn't run without them.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
But they don't act like this set can't run without me. Like they are some of the most like humble and down to earth people. Yeah. And they're all so nice.
These guys got it done with no ego that I could see, and just like knew that they were good at their job, and they did their job. and also like the class act that is Elizabeth Olsen, the very last day, she and the director rented out this ice cream truck just for the cast and the crew and the extras.
I love
At
that.
the very end of the day, when she finished her last scene, when we had finished our last scene, she came to the extras tent with the director to thank us personally for having been there.
That's so big. I've been on a couple
Class
of movies and the extras tent almost gets like ignored. And I get it. Extras are hard to like get consistently. They are hard to get to stick to a schedule, but like it means so much when somebody one remembers that we need to eat.
Yes.
But but
Yeah.
two wants to come specifically to the extras tent or the extras holding area
Mhm.
and just say thank you
Yeah,
and
it
for
just-
being here.
It meant the world. That
Mhm.
I mean, she had just finished. We had just been filming this long trial scene, and which just took a lot of energy for her, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And she still came and thanked all of us, like all 200 of us, and it was just like such a classy thing to do. And if I ever get to be that big on a film and TV set, like I want to do the exact same thing.
You heard it here, folks. HBO Max, Elizabeth Olsen, you have our seal of approval.
Indeed, always and
'Cause
forever.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
So we do officially have to start wrapping up.
Right.
Because we can't stay here forever.
Oh,
If only because we do have to do our jobs.
indeed we do. Indeed we do. Yeah.
So, I would love to know, and I know we've talked about advice in terms of like headshots
Mhm.
and getting to know the crew on whatever set you're on and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Is there any bit of parting advice that's actionable
Yeah.
that you would give a actor starting out? It could be in the Atlanta market, it could be in Texas, it could be however, whatever you feel is like an actionable step that somebody could take right now
Yeah.
to better their career.
Find an acting community.
Mhm.
Find a studio. Find a group of friends. Use Facebook groups to find actors in your vicinity. I started out at the Fort Worth Actors Studio in Little Fort Worth, Texas, and grew so much as an actor. I took my first classes there. I took improv, Stanislavski, Meisner, and just threw myself out there. Didn't know what I was doing, and they were so kind and gentle. Acting really should be the most supportive community out there, and a lot of times it's not, which I hate. But when you're starting out, you need to find your people. And so
Yes.
Google, acting classes near me, or Facebook groups of like, actors in Atlanta, Georgia, or in Fort Worth, Texas, or something like that, and start learning in a community of people, because this is a hard industry and you need support. You always need to grow. However, the more classes I take, the more I learn that there's so much that I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. And even things that I thought I was good at, I was like, oh, I still have much farther to go.
I thought I knew that, but apparently I
Yeah.
didn't. It's really putting aside your pride,
Yeah.
because this job
That
will
is-
humble you
Oh.
constantly.
And being with friends, you need that support. You need a support system. And while also, you need the support system while you're being rejected over and over and over again, because that is the language of our business.
Yes.
Also, no, it's not personal.
Yes.
I know it's not necessarily actionable, but it's very important for people to know that it's not personal. I remember my dad telling me that he was like so upset that I never hear back when I don't get roles.
My mom says the same
I know.
thing.
He's like, they could
She's
just
like,
send you an email.
they could have been nice enough to just say we're going in a different
I
direction.
know. And I was like, Dad, they would have had to send that to 1,000 people.
Probably more.
Possibly.
Raven Drummer talks about how she just gets the people that her assistants sent her.
Right. I know.
Her assistants get thousands of people.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. And then learn as much as you can. Read books. Self-management for actors is a great way to start. Watch movies. Watch TV shows. Learn the language of the business, because it is a language. And you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And that's part of the fun. Also, have a life outside of acting.
Oh my God. Yes.
If you try to have acting fill you up as your identity, you will fail,
Mhm.
and it will hurt.
Get a side job just because you want to meet people that aren't actors.
Mm-hmm.
Because if all you do is talk about acting and do acting, you're going to burn yourself out.
Focus on getting to know yourself. It's
Mhm.
taken me several years to learn who Allyn is. Like, how did God create me? Like, what are my likes and my dislikes? What are my hobbies? And learning more about myself has really influenced my acting, because I now know how I act truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And that just channels, I get to channel so much of myself into my roles now because I know who I am.
Mm-hmm. And the roles are better for it.
And the roles are better for it.
And the world is better for it.
Yes.
Well, Allyn.
Well, Lauren.
Thank you so much for being my first guest.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
On Live from My Basement. It's so, honestly, it from the moment I met you, from the moment I picked you up from the airport and we went
July 2023.
Yes, and we went where we shall not be named. And
suffice it to say, we went on an adventure that did not go well.
Yes,
but we became friends because of it, and here we are.
Exactly. From the moment I picked you up from the airport, I was like, this person just seems like so down to earth and so awesome. And so it's amazing to have that like chance meeting lead to a friendship of what, like a year and a half now,
and going forward.
Yes. And so I really appreciate you coming on, and I really appreciate all of the nuggets of wisdom that you have and that you wanted to share with people. And
absolutely.
Is there anywhere that people can find you? Is there any current project that you want to plug before we head out?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at the Allyn Morrison, ALLYN, the Allyn Morrison. I also have a website, allynmorrison.com. If you want to cast me for something, contact Ophelia at Johnson Talent Agency in Los Angeles, California. At the moment, I am in between projects, but I'm also working on moving right now, so that's taking up a lot of my time. But stay tuned.
Gotcha. And that, once again, was Allyn Morrison. All of her contact info will be in our details. Not her phone number, you weirdos. But
please don't text me. I have enough stuff going on in my life.
Her contact info will be in the description, and I'm sure that she would be happy to hear about some of your journeys through Instagram or
absolutely.
And I'm sure her agent would love it if you cast her in things.
Even if you just want to talk. I love talking to people.
So, with that being said, Allyn, it was so great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And I can't wait to have you back on again. And I wish you all the best of luck in LA.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. And we will see you next time. Bye.